Welcome back, drifters. So it may not look like it, but I have been busting my ass trying to get this floor pan out. This one here is way worse than the one that was on the other side because the guy fully welded in some places and other places he didn't, but they were all just in really hard to reach areas. So today I'm going to work on finishing getting all those ground out and cut out. Now if I was just going to do this real quick and I just wanted to cut it out, I would just cut it and be done with it. But the problem is where this guy cut, it's going to be very difficult when I get replacement floor pans, and I'm not sure exactly how much sheet metal I'm going to have to work with. So I want to try to save as much of it as possible. So by doing that, it just means it takes a lot longer for me to be able to cut this one out safely without ruining it. Because if we can, we want to reuse it. We just need to fix it, make sure we get rid of all the rust underneath and everything like that. So very similar to what we did over there. I'm going to try not to be too repetitive here, but this is what we're working on this week. And yeah, I'm just going to do what I can, start cutting it out, and then after that we'll start working on getting the actual pieces that were left cut out as well. So I'm gonna start with that, and then we'll move on to the next thing.
Dream machine, racing queen, I'll take you wherever you wanna go. Let's blow this town, break the speed of sound. Tonight we all know crazy. Dream machine, racing queen, you make my heart beat, you make my heart beat. Dream machine, racing queen, you make my heart beat, you make my heart beat. Riding on a highway, blue lights flashing behind me. Dream machine, racing queen, you make my heart beat, you make my heart beat. Born to ride, Mustang 65, got that V8 engine with a fuel injection. Drop the clutch, pedal to the floor, turn that giddy button to a lion's roar. Dream machine, racing queen, I'll take you wherever you wanna go. Let's go to town, break the speed of sound.
Yeah. Oh, thank God it's out. Finally. Oh, fuck this thing. Holy shit. Fuck it. Oh. Woo! Woo! That is what I'm talking about, baby. It's out. It ain't pretty, but it's gonna work. Let me tell you, that took a ton of work. Like, holy crap. That was ridiculous. This took me 3 days to get this side out, but it's finally out. And I know it's super repetitive from what we already did, but I'm telling you, this is totally gonna be worth it. Because let me tell you, what this guy did, it ain't pretty. He was literally welding directly on rust. So I'm very glad that I cut this thing out, because man, this would have been a complete nightmare. This is another reason why, if you're ever buying a classic car, just be prepared to find some nasty stuff. Luckily for me, I was planning on doing all this anyway, but a lot of people don't plan on this, and they get cars that people may have shittily redone. Luckily, we're gonna fix that problem. So if you see right there, he actually welded the panel to that. Like, he left that entire chunk of rusted metal there. So that all has to come out. This spot here isn't looking too pretty. So some of these spots over here need to be cleaned up. Obviously, they're a little bit damaged. This is that spot where he cut out. So we'll see what we can do to fix that. And then obviously back here, I still got to get all this stuff chopped off, clean up a lot of these things, that way it looks a little bit better. We're going to be removing this entire block here because it's not supposed to be there when we go to do this, because the new panel is going to weld right where these are. So basically, we're just going to drill out the spot welds on here, and then the new panel will just go right there. So fortunately, the kick plate on this side is actually looking pretty decent. I may just need to get a new floor pan because it got destroyed when I was removing it. I tried to save it as best I could, but I think we're going to just keep it for like scrap metal so we can use for other areas that we might need to patch. But the other thing is, where the tunnel is, where the transmission's gonna go. I still don't know if that's gonna need to be modified at all because I don't know what engine or transmission we're gonna be using and how it's gonna sit yet. So it's gonna be kind of hard to, you know for sure how we're gonna have to modify that. So I think the best route might be that we put the floor pans in, the new ones, whenever we get them. And then go from there as far as modifying the tunnel. If we have to, we may not have to, it just depends. So yeah, things are gonna get a little bit tricky because right now I'm not 100% sure where to go for the next step. We still have a bunch of rust spots that I need to fix, and that's really what I wanna focus on. But as far as the floor pans go, we got them out, we know now what we're dealing with. There's a few spots where there's still rust and we're gonna have to clean that up. I'm looking into a couple different like solvents and stuff that we can use to cure a lot of the rust. So that way we're not having to grind out a lot of the metal, because I don't want to take away metal if I don't have to, because a lot of it's just surface rust. So we could use like a chemical solvent to really take care of a lot of that. But yeah, so tomorrow I'm going to get back to work on this. You'll probably see it in this video. If not, it'll be the next one. I'm going to be cutting away a lot of that rust and a lot of those things, getting it prepped to put in the new pan. So that's going to be the next step. I'm going to look at some solvents and see what we can come up with, and I'll let you know what I find. So welcome back to today. Today is about the 4th or 5th day working on the car. I don't quite remember where I'm at. It's been a while. We're gonna be taking this spot weld cutter. I don't know why I couldn't think of that, but it's a spot weld cutter. And we're gonna be removing all the old rusty panels that were left from the floorboards from where the previous owner did it, and he did it wrong. It's okay, we all make mistakes. I make them all the time. So what we're gonna do now is work on cutting these out, grinding it back, and making it basically ready for the new floor pans. So in order to get started doing this, it's very simple. Basically, all I need is my power drill, which this little sucker here will do just fine, and that spot weld cutting kit. And it was, I think, like $35 or $40 on Amazon. There are some cheaper ones, but this one is a better brand, and I just, when it comes to tools, I'd rather make sure that I get something that I know is pretty decent. So that's what I did. Now that looks like it could hurt somebody. So this is the tool that we're looking at. You can see it's very nasty looking, and you want to be very careful with it, but it's basically just two pieces. You got the spot weld cutting piece, and then you have the pilot hole drill. Luckily this thing all just kind of works together. This is the drill, and then this is that nice little spot weld cutter. All you got to do basically is you got to mark out where you're going to drill your spot weld. You tap it with a punch or something like that, and then you just drill it out, and it'll basically separate the metal and make it to where you just pop the panel off. In a perfect world. This is my world, so it's probably not going to go that smooth. So let's get to it. Since I can't find my punch, I'm just going to use a nail and a hammer. We're just going to mark the center of where this spot weld is. So here's one right here. Might be kind of hard to see. That didn't work at all. Yeah, I definitely need a better screw. This thing's flat. Luckily, I found my punch. There we go. Now we got a nice little starting point. Now you can see we got a nice little starting point. It's not exactly center, so I may have to adjust that a little bit, but you can see where the spot welds are. It's these little circle looking things. All right, here we go. We're just going until it just barely gets through. Oh, all right, we definitely got it. I went a little too far. So now I just need to repeat that process like 100 more times. So I'm just gonna get to work, and I'll see you when I'm done. So these spot welds proved to be a little bit of a pain in my ass, because when I started cutting these things out, it was not going very smooth. I ended up having to cut around a few pieces, and eventually what I had to do was I would drill it out with the spot weld cutter, and then I'd have to follow up with a grinder. Eventually I found that just using a grinder was way faster, because it was really hard to tell exactly where the spot welds were because this metal was just so rusted out. But luckily that just made it a little bit easier to get out. Well, we got this big old mamma jamma out of here. We'll put it in the junk pile. Whew, it's kind of loud. But yeah, we got that out. That took me way longer than I thought it would, and I still have to do the passenger side. So that's what we're gonna be working on next. But I was looking at this and I was trying to figure out, like, okay, what all do we need to get done here? Like, what all needs to come out? And there's one other thing I noticed, and that's the torque box. This little box down here is what's called the torque box. Now this one, it looks like they hacked it up a bit to try to do when they did the other repairs. So we definitely need to get it fixed because it is structural. And what it does is it basically helps prevent the subframe and stuff, the body, from twisting when it's put under a heavy load. AKA, that's why it's called the torque box. But an interesting fact is that on 67, they didn't have it on the passenger side. But by 68, every single one of these things had it on the passenger side as well. So there's probably a good reason why they did it, and since we're resto modding this thing, we're gonna be putting a 68 torque box on this side just to kind of help stiffen this thing up, because we want it to handle good and we don't want any problems down the road. So since we're here, we've already got all the stuff cut out, this is the time to do it, so we're gonna do that as well. I just need to, order the parts. But in the meantime, what I'm gonna do is work on getting all this side cut out of the passenger, so that way we can just kind of make progress as we go, because I may as well do this while we're waiting on parts anyway. So that's what I'm gonna do. Hopefully I can get this done today, and we will call today a win. So wish me luck. So for the final pass, we just took our grinder, hammer and chisel, and went to town. It was a hell of a lot of work, but I wasn't about to let work stop me from getting the job done. All right, that's one more side down. Whew. That's not great, but I'll have to fix that. Well, I would call that a definite win, because we were able to get those little pieces of rust that were just stuck in here out. Found a few little concerning areas, but I think I'll be able to fix it up with a wire wheel and a little bit of phosphoric acid or something like that. So I actually managed to order the parts that I need. One of them was on back order, so I don't know how long it's going to take to get that, and I think it's the driver's side floor pan. But I have 2 torque boxes, the floor pans, and I think one other piece of sheet metal coming in. So, oh yeah, it's a firewall extension. So we should have everything that we need to be able to fix all the rust in the floorboards here shortly. So in the meantime, while I'm waiting on those things to get here, I'm going to do a lot of prep work and stuff like that. So in the next episode, I'm going to try to focus on doing a lot of the prep work, making sure that we get rid of all the rust and get it prepped. I've got this weld through primer. It's made out of copper, and we're going to put that on there and basically get everything ready to go for when we get the pans. That way we can get them cut and welded in. So that's kind of what we're going to focus on next. We'll see how it goes. This is kind of a long, tedious process, and it's going to take me a little while to get everything done. So bear with me if the episodes aren't coming like this. It's a lot of work and a little progress. But the one thing that my dad told me that I always try to remember is, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. It's the same thing with, when it comes to alcohol or drugs and stuff like that. You take everything one day at a time. If you can't do a day, you do an hour. If you can't do an hour, you do a minute. You just do it as moment by moment, and eventually you get it done. It's the same thing with this car. We're only going to do what we can as we can, and even though it may not be the most interesting stuff, we're still going to do stuff, and we're just going to chip away at it every chance that I can get. So I hope you all enjoyed this progress report I had on the Mustang. I know it was a lot of work. It may not seem like it on camera because a lot of this was sped up for you guys, because I want to spare you all the boring parts, but let me tell you, this isn't easy. It's very time consuming, and if you're considering doing a restoration, make sure you got a lot of energy and time, because Jesus, this is a lot. So something as simple as cutting out floorboards takes days if you're gonna do it properly. If you want to do it, the hack it up and go, you can do that too, but we try to do things right around here. So if you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that like button on the way out. It really does help me out, and consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I'll be sure to see you in the next one. But just remember, keep it nice and easy.